Hello, virtuous leaders, scholars, and virtue change agents. My name is Dr. Lisa Marie Portugal, and I am the Leadership Architect. I'd like to welcome you today to a new talk that I have prepared for you and in service to you and your goals. This talk is called Principled Centered Leadership Applied. It is based off of one of my many books called A Culture of Excellence: Virtuous Leadership Principles for Organizational Success, a Management System. And the graphic there is the cover of the book. It is the 4 cardinal virtues: prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. On the next slide, you will see my personal and professional logo, and I would like to invite you to live virtuously. We cannot achieve greatness or magnanimity unless and until we master the virtues within ourselves. Reaching greatness or magnanimity is about virtue building within ourselves, our families, communities, and others. We cannot achieve magnanimity until fortitude, self-control, counsel, justice, prudence, understanding, respect for others, temperance, humility, charity, piety, and courage are present first within us. We cannot give to others what we do not possess ourselves. So understanding how to master ourselves and build virtue is the first, ongoing, and last step required for magnanimity. And mastering the virtues is a lifelong and ongoing process throughout our entire lives. When we fall, pick yourself up and start the practice of virtue building again, and do this throughout your entire life. Magnanimity is an ongoing process and a focus we should have throughout our lives. It is also a focus we should have for working with, mentoring, and coaching others to greatness. We can build virtue within ourselves and help others in our sphere of influence to achieve their greatness in their own lives by teaching the virtues and living the virtues in everything we do. Live virtuously. Okay, so let's begin. The table of contents about Dr. Lisa Marie Portugal: Principle-Centered Leadership Applied, Covey's Principle-Centered Leadership Model, set principles in place to advance virtuous behaviors, example of a principle-based leadership model, and in conclusion, education and autonomy to make informed decisions. I love this graphic. In fact, I have it on my services page at one of my websites, the Manifest Leadership Academy website. The devil whispers to the warrior, "You cannot withstand the storm." The warrior replied, "I am the storm." I hope that graphic motivates you the way it motivates me, because we want to live virtuously. We want to have a virtuous path. We want to be a model for others. We want to educate others to their greatness. And hopefully you will join me in being the storm as well, right? Okay, so here is the About Dr. Lisa Marie page. I love, as you know, Miss Lucy Van Pelt. If you've heard some of my previous lectures on these topics about leadership. So again, this is my homage to Miss Lucy Van Pelt, disseminating her advice to her peers, right? The doctor is in. I don't use these graphics to represent myself. I just use them because that cartoon of her, that character, just cracks me up, and I love it so much. Okay, so there's Miss Lucy Van Pelt. She's ready to give you her advice. And there's my About Dr. Portugal page. You can read that later if you'd like. Okay, so now we are on slide number 5, Principle-Centered Leadership Applied. What does that look like? A fundamental difference between principles and policies is that principles are more empowering to individuals, while rules are suppressive and can be demoralizing. And that is based off of Covey. You can look him up. He's written many books about principle-centered leadership. And I always like to preface this, since I do teach leadership, and I teach all of the leadership theories, and I like to stay on top of any new ones that are coming out. This one's it's a little older, but I like to couple principled leadership with virtuous leadership, because as I've said before in another talk, a lot of people have their principles. They may not be my principles. So I like to couple it with virtuous leadership because we want to teach our Christian virtues and values to others, and we want to exemplify our traditional Christian virtues and values in everything we do. So those are our principles, right? So that's what we're going to promulgate and foster in the work that we do with others. Rules are directive, while principles are directional. There is a need for procedures, policies, and rules in organizations, and removing them is not what a principle-centered leadership shift is about. However, organizations can be more agile with fewer rules. Rules can impede individuals from being as effective and efficient as they might be. Rather than employing more leaders to catch employees doing something wrong or to instill more rules, organizations can empower and trust their teams to achieve higher standards through principles. And I know a lot of this is true for me because, virtue building and virtue leadership, that empowers me. That makes me want to do greater things. Rules-based, not so much, right? Now, I know everywhere that we work, there are rules that we have to follow, but if you can, whenever I'm talking about policy that I have to follow and I have to model those rules and policies and procedures, I still want to apply virtuous leadership principles so that way others can feel empowered. They know that, they have to follow certain rules in the organization, but they can still apply their own creativity and talent, and they can still achieve doing their best in their way. So I like to emphasize virtuous leadership principles when I have to talk about any of those policies that we still have to follow, right? Okay, so next slide. A principle-centered leadership model can be beneficial because it provides the flexibility needed to respond to the rapidly changing needs of a competitive organization. Principles allow for the possibility of creativity and flexibility that individuals need to resolve problems. And there we are. I like creativity. I like flexibility, right? So I hear those words and that catches my attention. A principle-based organization has the flexibility to be responsive to changing needs in a globalized marketplace. Furthermore, these types of organizations have the flexibility to use creativity to redesign work processes or any part of the organization when needed. Rather than aligning with the motto that upholds statements such as, "That is how we have always done things," unquote, principles allows the possibility for individuals to choose better options suiting each unique situation or objective, right? Okay, so there's a nice graphic that kind of encompasses what we're talking about there. Principles, vision, and values. What are our principles? What is the vision we're taking? What are the values that we have, right? And everybody can have different values, but we want to promulgate those traditional Christian virtues and values in our model. Okay, so the next slide, I always have my Aristotle image that I love. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit, right? So I always like to emphasize my habits. I do my habits every day. And when you're doing habits every day, they solidify, right? So we want to solidify our good habits, not our negative traits that we want to work on, our weaknesses, and alter and change those into strengths. So having principles in place allows room for inspiring individuals to desire to be a part of the organization's shared vision, mission, and purpose, rather than focusing on constraints or fear-based tactics. I don't like fear-based tactics. Do you? I'm sure none of us do, right? So I don't want to lead others with fear-based tactics. I want to inspire them. I want to draw out their creativity and their talents. So for example, giving individuals autonomy to be responsible for the choices they make removes a rule book mentality that fosters less creativity, agility, and flexibility. That's an important sentence to understand. I like to give others their autonomy and their room to make choices using their talents. Thusly, I appreciate that when my leaders and managers give me my autonomy to do that as well, right? So moreover, autonomy, principles, flexibility, and creativity in the workplace can raise employee morale and boost brand benevolence. It will boost your brand benevolence, and it will boost the brand benevolence of the institution or the organization that you're working for. Okay, on the next slide, I have a graphic for you, Covey's principle-centered leadership model. And this graphic, it is cited from a study from Duplessis and et al., right? Developing a Learning Organization Case Study. You can look for that study. The graphic is a little convoluted, but I like it because it has a lot of the words that we talk about, right? So at the top on the north, pointing to the north, we have stakeholder and other stakeholder needs, strategy, structure, systems. That dark circle there in the center, principles, meaning shared mission, vision, and values. We've got style. You're looking at my particular style of doing this, right? Leading through principle-centered leadership and virtuous leadership. What are the skills that we have on the team that we're working with or the organization? Clearly, you can see my skills are exemplified throughout all of our talks. People, who are the people that we have on our team? Who is the self? Recognizing the self in us. How can we grow our people and allow them the autonomy to use their skills and abilities? On the outside left, we've got the organizational. On the right, we've got alignment. We've got left, managerial, interpersonal, and personal. On the right, like I said, alignment, empowerment, trust, and trustworthy. So we've got a lot of words that Dr. P likes, empowerment, trust, and trustworthy, interpersonal, personal. So like I said, it's kind of a convoluted image there, but it's good because it's got all of the words that we like to hear, right? So however this is their model, how Duplessis et al. Created their model, but you can create your own model with gathering together any of the leadership styles that you like. Okay, so for our next slide, we've got set principles in place to advance virtuous behaviors. How do we do that? A principle-centered approach enables individuals to shift from crisis to crisis with a fixing what is on fire mindset to a more conscious and prudent mindset when making decisions. In control and command organizations tend to create new policies when individuals make mistakes as a way of stopping them from doing it again. This practice can have negative and damaging effects. It is far more powerful to ask questions such as, how did we not create the right context regarding this issue for our employees? Unquote. Rather than creating a new policy when individuals make mistakes, set a principle in place to advance virtuous behaviors. That's a powerful sentence, isn't it? Okay, so the next topic, we are still looking at setting principles in place to advance virtuous behaviors. The following ideas can aid organizations in making rules under appropriate circumstances, such as all consequences have been considered, all consequences will be applied to everyone, and be prepared to stand by the rule even when it may be painful. The challenge for leaders and organizations is to seek out the rules that are senseless and the rules that do not fit in with the current accelerated pace of business and remove them. Some examples of senseless or demoralizing rules can include car spaces reserved for a management group, frontline workers who wear uniforms, and managers who wear corporate clothes. And only individuals above supervisor rank are permitted to sign purchase orders. So those are some examples of what might be senseless rules. And, we may notice some senseless rules in our workplace situations or school situations that maybe you can point out or maybe find workarounds for or create principles for that will raise the aspirations of the people that we're leading and working with. All right, rather than demoralizing them. An example of how principle-based leadership model may effectively apply can be expressed in the following scenario. Team members submit an annual budget that includes various unreasonable items. Many of the items requested were so outrageous that it pushed some of the line items in the budget over 65% from last year's budget. In the rules-based company, leaders might create a new policy stopping individuals from making these types of requests in the future. However, in a principle-based organizations, leaders may ask a question such as, what might be causing our employees to not understand our budgeting process, priorities, and business model? Unquote. Rather than creating new policy or rules for not doing something, principle-based leaders go down an educational path, creating opportunities for a learning economy or learning society. I love that. I coined both of those two themes. The end result was that employees were able to make better decisions in the future, and in the learning process were able to identify additional savings in other areas. So as you can see, a learning leader is going to ask different questions and create or model a learning economy and a learning society. So we want to add education in our virtuous leadership model. All right, so in conclusion, education and autonomy to make informed decisions. I love that graphic. Again, I'm modeling for you. So this graphic, yes, you are awesome and you should feel awesome. So I like to give graphics out in emails to students that I'm working with, or when I'm working in a corporate setting or a business setting where, I'm leading and managing others. I like to give them funny graphics or themes whenever they're doing something great or fantastic, or they've helped me out, or they've taught me something new. For example, I just sent an email today to someone that I'm partnering with who is also a director of education somewhere, and I am modeling for her as well and helping her to feel good for helping me out in the process as we work together. I didn't send her this one, I sent her something else, but like I said, so you can always do little things that can mean a lot to other people. I know when I'm recognized and appreciated, it means a lot to me. In a principle-based leadership model, employees are educated and then given autonomy to make informed decisions as business partners rather than blindly following policy and rules. Okay, so there you go. And again, it's not to say anything negative about rules and policies because we have them everywhere we work. We just want to lead people to greater heights. I know that there are certain things that we always have to follow no matter what, but we can do that in our own creativity with our virtuous leadership model. And the citations that I cited from today are listed here. Cameron and Wynn, Virtuousness in Organizations. Covey, Principle-Centered Leadership. He writes many books. Duplessis et al., Developing a Learning Organization Case Study. And then, of course, my book that you can find all of my books on Amazon, A Culture of Excellence, Virtuous Leadership Principles for Organizational Success, a Management Plan. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will have other talks for you. I want to thank you for being a part of my learning process. I love creating these for you. It was my pleasure and my honor to serve you today. Goodbye.